Good morning. It's actually about 6 o'clock in the evening here on June 1st in our office. Maybe you're seeing this on Thursday morning, June 2nd, or somewhere else, but wanted to get out our monthly market update on the Athens area for the month of May. That's actually a June update, but it covers the numbers for the month of May. Now, there's a lot of information in this particular update that is going to talk about what's been going on in the market that's changing because we have seen that over the last 30, 45 days. Bear with us through this because there's also some information of what's happened in the last 2 years that I went did a pretty deep dive. So there's going to be some good information to give you what you need to know about our market. Basically, answering the question: is our real estate market starting to normalize, and are Athens area home values possibly going to go down? Let's just get started, and you know how we start this if you've seen one before. We start with Athens, Clark, and Oconee County to kind of condense down the area, and we're going to look at the listings, the under contract, the average sold price, and the total homes sold over the last 3 years. So this first part is 2020 and 2021. Then we're going to come in and basically add in what we've seen year to date, January 1st to May 31st this year. So let's start with the new listings. And this is where we had some good news actually this month. 2020, if you remember the month of May, we were starting to come out of the lockdown. So there was some hopeful that this wasn't going to be a 2-year ordeal that it turned out to be. And we had 927 listings. And then last year at the same time, we were going through this record breaking real estate market where not only were prices going up, but a lot of properties were being sold because of the fast moving real estate. So we saw over 1,000 new listings by this point last year. The bad news is we're only at 870 in Clark and Oconee County, representing 21% behind this time last year of listings to market. Under contract is also down from 694 to 535. Of course, the sales prices are up to 409, but even though that's an appreciation of 18%, that's actually pretty good news in some ways because it's starting to slow down. And we'll go over that in a minute too. Here's the bad news for people, quite frankly, in my industry, whether you're selling real estate, because the amount of transactions is actually going down. So while our values are not going down, it's the amount of commerce between people trading properties. Investment properties are slowing down because of the interest rates. And even some of the residential sales have slowed down because of the lack of inventory. Let's go take a look at the actual month of May. Well, the first part, that's 2020, 2021. Then we add in what happened this last 31 days of May. Here's the good news at the top, people. See the total new listings? This is 243 in May 2020, 244 in a great real estate market of 2021, and 245 came to market in May of 2022. That's where the good news is for home buyers. Home sellers, we're starting to see the market in some ways act more normal. 21 to 40 days of market time is great. It shouldn't always be 48 hours with multiple offers. We're still seeing that, of course, in some properties, but there are some signs of a little bit of deceleration and sort of calming down. The under contracts remain about the same, but look at this at the month of May over last month. We saw an increase of less than 10%. That's still really good. But again, the negative thing is the amount of commerce being done is there's less transactions, down 32% from 166 from 244. And then if you look, even coming out of the pandemic, there were more sales in May of 2020 than there are in May of 2022. And that should tell you something about what's happening in our market is there's less chicken at the barbecue, so to speak, as I've said before. Now, methods of purchase, this was something we added. Still like to go over it. The numbers are kind of showing pretty consistent. This is just referring to cash buyers, VA, FHA, or cash or conventional loan. Now, we do think this could change with some of these interest rates. I've talked with a few colleagues about it, and we kind of agree. If you look here, conventional loans hanging around that 60% number, they're obviously down a little bit just because the cash is up 6%. So in 2020, 23% of people in Athens, Clark and Oconee were cash buyers, 30% a year ago, and now up to 36%. We're going to see that train kind of slow down because a lot of this cash is being spent, and we might see the VA, FHA, and USDA loans go up because in some cases they offer more competitive interest rates. We're still seeing people get rates below 5%, but average is probably about 5 or low fives. Now, this is where the information is going to get a little bit more involved, and we're going to try to give you some insights into what you can expect. So this is housing market activity. As you can see, this is the listings under contract and sold year to date. This is just a graph that demonstrates what we went over with the homes before. It's not the fact that the values are going down so far, it's that the amount of transactions are declining, and that's what's going on there. So When we look at the month of May, you can also see this was the amount of homes sold last May, and this was the amount of homes sold last May. So that's down. Here's the good news, as I went over before. Look at this little dotted line I added in here. That's the new listings to market in May of 2020, coming out of the lockdowns, getting really excited to put your house on the market. Historic real estate market in May of 2021, and then it's almost identical in May of 2022. So that is good signs because the inventory is starting to come. This is what this graph is about. So this is the new listings month by month over the last 3 years. We do this almost every update. These blue, green, and red lines have told us a lot over the last two years. And as you can see, the green line represents 2021, the red line 2022, and the blue line 2020. So in April, look at the big difference we had between 2021 and 2022. April, the amount of listings to market was so low. And then we actually saw a resurgence in the month of May. And this is where the market started to feel a little different. We had some properties that you might have thought were going to go in 48 hours. Instead, they took 20 days. It was still a successful story for the seller and the buyer, just a little bit more of a calming effect, which would be good. And that's where I've got this arrow pointing to is with all these three things converging of the same metrics over the last 2 years, maybe our market is normalizing. The next thing we're going to do, though, is going to take a little deeper dive to try to see what we might think's happening in our market as we progress. So what I've done here, I went back month over month over the last 2 years, basically starting from May, really ending in April of 2020, and looked at three things. What did the sales do? What did the prices do? And then what did the one thing I'm forgetting, I guess we'll get to it, sorry. But right here, this is the amount of total sales. This is one trend that we've been talking about. So let's start here. If you look at this graph, you've got May of 2020. We come out of the pandemic, the sales go way up. We get that summer surge, as you recall, comes right back down in the end of the summer. But that's also typical. And then it really starts to fall off as we head into 2021. This was a real, that low supply part of the market where we started to see things really come up. And then right here from January, we see to historic monthly amount of sales going into April, May, June, July. And then as they do at that time of year, they start to taper back off as we head into the end of summer. And this is the concerning thing about the amount of sales. This red line right here, what it demonstrates is the high watermark for our sales going back inside the last 6 months or so. And what that was is really December, which is typically a low sales time. And as you can see, look at the amount of sales transactions in February. In March, they were up in April, but they tapered back off in May. They're cooling down a little bit. We're going to look at some other figures here of the last 24 months and see what they say. This is the new listings to market. So this has been one of the big drivers of some of the supply demand. So as you go back, as you look, we had the listings. This is May of 2020, a little bit of a jump up in June before we hit that little summer surge of COVID. Boom, the amount of inventory falls off the earth. And then we start to tick back up into the new year, having that great historic real estate market in March, April 2021. We go down a little bit in May. So that was a normal trend that we saw last May too. But there's something else I'm going to get to that'll show you why it might be a little different. We tick back up. So we've got all this great new listings. And then since really July, August, we have hit the floor. In December, it was the lowest it had been. And then we were hopeful to come back up, if you remember, in January and February. But then we saw this really sharp fall off in April. But the good news is this red line that had kind of previously where we were earlier in the year, the month of May, we got back over it. So this little yellow line is one to watch. What are we going to see with the new listings? If that continues to trickle up, we're going to see a market that's going to equal a little bit more normal results for people. And this is the one, the sold price. This is the one of the ones I'm going to end on. This is over the last 24 months. This is the month over month average sold price. So this can fluctuate depending on if the market one month had a lot of lower price condos sell versus more traditional, more expensive homes. As you can see, June of 2020, the home price has spiked up pretty good over month to month. Then like normal, they'll fall down over July and August, come back up a little bit. As we look here, we look at July and August, we saw in 2021 a big increase in the month over month sale prices all the way up till May. Then we saw a fall off going into June, but we came right back up. And, you know, you can kind of predict in the month of August, September, you're going to see a fall off. This year, what we've seen right here in February, we saw that increase in month over month price shoot way up. But what's abnormal is over March, April, and now May, we have seen the month over month average sale price go down. A couple of reasons for that. One, we are seeing a lot of condo sales. Condos do not sell typically as highly as a residential home. So that could bring it down a little bit. We are also seeing less transactions, as I've talked about. But if this trend continues, what we might see is a slowdown of this rapid appreciation. You might need to, as a seller, price your house appropriately instead of very aggressively. And then it might be your expectation to find 3 possible interested parties versus 10. And that is actually more of a normal market. In fact, we used to do these things on contingencies, and we used to look 30 to 45, maybe 60 days of market time. And we called that a good market. So what we're seeing is not really some fall off in price, but we are seeing some changes, some things that basically lend themselves to where we're possibly going to have a more normal market. As I like to end, this is our group here at 5M Realty or 5 Market Realty. You can reach us at info@5M Realty. You got questions about the market, you want to talk to somebody, you got to get a plan in place for something next year, into the summer, or you just want to connect with somebody to help you find a property, please do that. We got a great group of people here that are willing to help you while you're in the market and even when you're not. So visit us at 5mrealty.com, info@5M Realty. Thanks for staying for the whole thing.